good afternoon and good evening whenever or wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy, to break down what went wrong last night with the New Jersey Devils, our single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, that was a beatdown. And Marchand got his hat trick goal overturned, so it was 8-1 instead of 9-1. I don't know. I mean, listen, the Devils have issues in goal with Blackwood out, so not super surprised. Maybe surprised that they almost got a 10 spot put up on them, but not surprised that they lost that game.
Yeah, I think it's, 8-1. You don't necessarily expect that. It's a nice reminder that, like you said, the Devils are rolling with two AHL goalies, right? Like they started the season with Blackwood and Bernier. Here they are with Dawes and Gillies. They gave up 80 pretty shots. Not a very good night from the New Jersey goaltending. Boston certainly had that Boston top line had an excellent night. Bergeron had the 3-point bonus over on DraftKings. Marchand had a couple goals. Even DeBrusk had a multi-point night. If you added in David Pastrnak, which is something that we talked about yesterday on the show, he had the 3-point bonus for them. And also, like, they didn't play a lot. Now I get that the third period was some less ice time for them because it was such a blowout already. Like they didn't need to play them 20 minutes, but it was something that I kind of noticed last night is that they definitely, the ice time concerns were legitimate. The New Jersey goaltending is very illegitimate. So Boston definitely had a good night. We saw some good nights in the chat. I believe Jason Zyman took down second in the 121 single entry, if I'm not mistaken, and Hofbrau took down first in the 333. So congrats to them. And Asobi took down the $1 late slate, I believe it was. I'll have to double check that, but congrats to those three on very good nights last night. I'm going to ask you how you did. I got absolutely crushed. I didn't have any Boston last night. I think I had like a couple defensemen or something like that, but obviously none of the forwards. That certainly didn't play out well. Like I had some lines that did fine. Like Carolina won, their top line was pretty good last night. I did get Victor Arvidsson in, and we got a goal out of him from Los Angeles. The Leafs certainly went off. William Nylander had a great game for Toronto. So just did not have any Boston. How'd you do?
I was out all day, so I set my lineup real early in the morning with no research, and I just left it because everyone was playing. I didn't play much volume because I didn't have a chance to research. I had Colorado won. McKinnon had his lowest output of the season when he's been healthy. So early night. I mean, I used the Islanders power play stack for whatever reason. I was feeling like crazy, I guess, yesterday. I know you had concerns about the Islanders, which I missed because I was busy, but came to fruition last night. You know what? Like for setting the lineup that early in the morning, it was kind of a wash for me. I dug in early this morning on this slate. I'm ready to go. Unfortunately, it's like you're either playing chalk or you're playing like really low owned guys with concerns.
Yeah, it is a weird slate here tonight. Like we'll talk about each of the individual games as we'll go along. But there's two lines by our Top Stacks tool. Subscribers should go check that out, our Top Stacks tool. We have it for free up sometimes, not today for non-subscribers. Our Top Stacks tool has two lines coming in over 30% here tonight, and they're at different ends of the pricing spectrum. One of them is the Tampa top line. One of them is the Anaheim top line. I think there are good reasons for those lines to be owned. They're really priced down, especially on DraftKings. I just think, we'll talk about those games individually, but just in general, like we talked about it a few days ago when, Connor McDavid was on the slate, and he had a solo. There was no other top centers on the slate with him. We talked about how ownership can kind of drive there. he was kind of on an island by himself. And when that happens, you kind of have to decide whether or not you want to chase that ownership. So we'll definitely talk about those games here in a little bit. Before we get too much further, if you guys could in the chat, please throw us a thumbs up, click that subscribe button, the like and subscribe buttons. Those likes and subscribes really help us out here at Awesemo. We're definitely growing this channel. We're just over 75,000 subscribers now. Those subscriptions definitely help us. So if you haven't clicked the subscribe button yet, please do so, because those subscriptions are what grow this channel and keep these shows coming on a regular basis. Be sure you click the alert too when we click the notification bell to get alerts whenever we do go live. And free premium tools and data up on the site today. Today we have our NBA player rankings and our NHL player projections. So whether you're playing NBA or NHL, we have some free premium tools and data up on the site for everybody to check out today. So head on over to Awesemo.com and see what we have up on the site to help out anybody, well, most people playing some DFS here tonight. Also want to mention the Power Plays article by Jeff Vodler. He's the fourth man on the NHL side here at Awesemo. He has his Power Plays article up at Awesemo.com. It is free to read for everybody to check out. So if you want to get Bots' thoughts, just kind of thought of that, be sure to check out Awesemo.com and check out his Power Plays article under the NHL section. It seems we temporarily lost Josh here. Seems like he might have a little bit problem with his connection. So we'll just roll along here and talk about these games a little bit slowly. And if in the chat, if you guys have some questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and we can talk about them as we go through these games here today. All right, let's talk about this first one here. We have the Nashville Predators with a 3.5 applied goal total. They're going into Buffalo. The Buffalo Sabres have a 2.6 implied goal total. Now, anybody that's been watching the show, any point for the last few weeks, we've talked a lot about how ice time declines have affected a lot of teams across the league. The Buffalo Sabres are a perfect example of that. If you look at the ice time for some of their top players, Jeff Skinner's down around 17 minutes over their last 7 games. Alex Tuch is under 18 minutes. Tage Thompson just over 18 minutes. There are a lot of times, especially earlier in the year, where we saw Thompson 19, 20, definitely over 20 minutes a night. So they are losing a little bit of ice time, but they're still in excellent line. And we'll dig into that in a second. On the other side, you have the Nashville Predators, who are kind of going through the same thing. Over on DraftKings here tonight, Phillip Forsberg is the most expensive winger that they have. He's priced at $8,000 on DraftKings tonight. And he's playing under 17 minutes a game over their last 6 games, over the last couple of weeks. So it's a lot to pay for only, 16, 17 minutes of ice time. But it is a good line that could get decent matchups going into Buffalo here tonight. So we're going to talk about this. In depth to try to figure out where the best plays are. So let's start with that Buffalo top line. One thing that I like to do and that we have done, over the course of the season is not only look at how lines have done over. Oh, hey, Josh is back. I just noticed.
Here I am.
Sorry. Yeah, welcome back, Josh. We're just digging into the Nashville Buffalo game here. I was talking about how both top lines are kind of losing ice time. Phillip Forsberg, expensive on DraftKings. He can be worth it, but it is a lot to pay for only 16, 17 minutes of ice time. Why don't you give us some thoughts here on this game?
Well, the thing is,
oh, and it looks like we might have gotten Josh frozen again here. I'm just going to talk through this game real quick. Buffalo's top line has started to fall defensively a little bit, and that's kind of the problem here. Oh, Josh says he lost power in the chat. Oh, that's tough. I can relate, having missed the show about a week ago with some lost power. It happens. What can you do about it? To Buffalo's defensive numbers, they're allowing 31 scoring chances against per 60 minutes through the month of March, 2.9 expected goals against. Those numbers were considerably lower earlier in the year. So they're definitely allowing more defensively, but offensively, they're still generating a lot, 39 scoring chances per 60 minutes and 3.4 expected goals for per 60. So there's still a very good offensive line. It's just, as we said, the problem is they aren't going to get a ton of minutes. In fact, it's Michael Granlund, somebody that's not on the top line, that is leading the Nashville forwards in ice time over their last 6 games. So, Buffalo's probably going to send out their top line a fair bit against that Nashville top line. But one thing Buffalo has been doing as well is sending out that Eakin, Girgensons, Okposo line against the opposing top lines when Buffalo is at home. And that frees up that Buffalo top line to go up against some of the second and third lines here against Nashville. And those depth lines have just not been good, and they just haven't been good for a while. If you look, just at Nashville too, their last 110 minutes together, they're only controlling 45% of the scoring chances. Conversely, the Buffalo top line is at 54%. So that would be a matchup that could favor Buffalo 1 here tonight. The two issues are, of course, 1, ice time, 2, facing UC Saros, who's arguably, a top 3, top 5 goalie in the league. But if you go look at our top stacks tool, we only have Buffalo coming in at about 2% ownership against a 9% top 2 stack percentage. Now, the 2 reasons the ownership is so low is that Buffalo, like I said, Buffalo has been spreading out their ice time, so they're not getting as much ice time, and they are expensive. Like $19K over on DraftKings is definitely nothing to sneeze at. Almost 21,000 over on FanDuel. That's a hefty price to pay for about 17 or 18 minutes of ice time. So that's the situation we find ourselves in here tonight. Is can that Buffalo top line generate enough in 17 or 18 minutes, some against the depth of Nashville, some against the top line, to score, 2-3 goals against UC Saros? I think that Buffalo top line is definitely good enough. The Nashville defensive numbers have been on a slide of late. Like, they're not a top 10 team by expected goals against. Like, they're kind of in that meaty middle area of the league. Like, that's nothing special. And being out in, it's the top line that has been their best defensive line. So, if Buffalo 1 doesn't see a ton of minutes against them, they'll see some of them, but not a ton of minutes. Maybe they can run wild against the depth here. So I do like Buffalo 1. The question is whether we want to dig into any of the Buffalo depth here, because the Buffalo, second and third lines won't see any of that Nashville top line, which is the only tough matchup here. Rasmus Asplund is actually having a fairly good season. Victor Olofsson, just a couple games ago, went absolutely nuclear, and that's what a guy like him can do. He's just an excellent shooter. Call him like Patrick Laine Jr. or Diet Laine or something like that. That's just what he does. He's a phenomenal shooter, and when he's on his game, he can absolutely fill the net. So, I don't know if I go to that Cousins, Krebs, Hinostroza line. They do seem to like Hinostroza. He's been getting some more minutes, but Middlestat, Olofsson, and Asplund have been kind of fine this year. In their last 85 minutes together, we're looking at 24 scoring chances for, 16 against, for a 60% scoring chance share. So that Buffalo third line of Asplund, Middlestat, Olofsson hasn't been awful. So if you want to, one of the filler spots I think is fine here tonight is like a 2-man Middlestat, Olofsson, Middlestat, Asplund, or just one offing, an Olofsson or something like that. Save some cash. Get to those more expensive stacks that we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. So on the Buffalo side, it's Buffalo 1, maybe some parts of that Buffalo 3 line. On the Nashville side, the problem we're running into, like I said, it's the same thing with Buffalo 1. It's that they're not playing a ton of minutes, and they're not that cheap. Like, the full line on DraftKings for Nashville 1 is over $19,000. And over on FanDuel, it's 20,300. So that Nashville top line is very expensive tonight. Josh is back here with us. So Josh, why don't you give us your thoughts on Nashville and that top line and maybe some of their depth forwards tonight?
Yeah. The first two times I tried talking about Nashville, someone just yanked the power out of New Jersey, apparently. And it came back on a couple minutes later. I see it's really windy outside, but the power lines are below ground. So I don't know. Maybe there's tremors, and maybe we have to get, Bert and his expertise in the situation. But I don't know. Like, I was talking to you before the show, before I got so rudely interrupted by lack of power, that I'm kind of interested in Nashville 1 tonight. It's 3.5 total. Like, there's not many lines that have low ownership on this slate that don't have issues, whether it be minutes issues, matchup issues, this and that. So, on DraftKings, 8K is a hefty price to pay for Forsberg for 16 minutes, but like, they've been rolling on the power play. The Sabres penalty kill isn't great. So kind of interested in Nashville 1. I think, if you take out like the names and stuff, like, and minutes, I think you could go down to Nashville 3. It doesn't feel sexy to load in Colton Sissons and Tanner Janelle on this line, on this slate, but like, for a cheap 2-man, I think that's fine as well. Like, the one thing that would keep me off Nashville 2 is they're just so low event and they don't have great possession numbers. So I think Nashville 1 is fine in GPPs. Obviously, the minutes concern and the price is a concern, but like, it's kind of been that way for like a month now, and they've been getting there. So this is a pretty good spot. If you want to pay the price for 16 minutes, go for it. I'm kind of in on Nashville 3 as a filler. Buffalo, same kind of deal. Like, that's that top line, low owned. But like, Alex Tuck has been yo-yoed on and off that line the past few games. So there's concerns there as well. It's a good power play spot, but is Tuck going to be there the whole game? Do you want to pay $6,300 for Alex Tuck to be on the third line by the second period? I don't know. So like, this game is a decent target for MME. It's just like, you're not going to play a line that doesn't have issues.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is like, this is a 6 total. Like, they're definitely expecting goals here, but they're just not expecting a lot of minutes for a lot of players. So you're going to have to decide whether you want to play the players for those minutes or not. Like you said, I think Nashville 1 is perfectly fine here tonight, but I do like Buffalo 1, maybe getting some of that second line matchup against the Preds here. Let's talk about some blue liners. Matthias Samuelsson was back, looks to be back for Buffalo. He had been playing 19-20 minutes, had done reasonably well for min price. I think it's the Nashville defenseman that a lot of people will be interested in. Like, hey, Yossi's price came down by $200, at least over on DK. Alex Carrier, he's starting to get a little expensive. Like, that high 3 range feels a little expensive. But Matthias Ekholm has been shooting the puck like the Dickens lately. Something that he doesn't normally do. Are we riding the Ekholm wave here?
Might as well. That wave, like in Point Break, comes every 100 years. So you got to ride the wave until it crashes. So yeah, for 3,200, I'll ride the Ekholm wave. And then on the Buffalo side, like, I think it's between Henry Jokiharju at min price and Samuelsson or Fitzgerald at min price. It's like one of those things. If you have a personal preference, you play that guy.
Yeah, I know I'm probably damning myself into Jokiharju putting up 20 DK points here tonight, but man, he just feels like, Buffalo's Mikey Anderson. You know what I mean? Just a ton of minutes, just not doing a lot with them, but he does project well. So I'm not going to say no to using a little bit of the Joker here tonight. All right, let's get to our next game. Chicago, 2.4 implied goal total going into Tampa. Tampa Bay has a 4.1 implied goal total. This is one of the spots that we talked about a little bit at the start of the show that is going to be exceptionally high owned. We have that Tampa top line, much less ownership on FanDuel, because on FanDuel they're over 25K. So I guess it's an easier decision on FanDuel if you can find a stack to go with them, or maybe some one-offs that you might like. But on DraftKings, they're pretty cheap. They're under 20,000. They're at 19.3. a lot of people are going to be on them. You and I have talked about how Chicago really hasn't been terrible defensively, but man, a 4.1 total. And these guys, like a lot of these guys are playing 19 or 20 minutes a night. Like they're not playing 16 or 17 minutes. They're getting ice time. So like, what do you do about a line that is coming in at nearly 36% ownership and is right on leverage, according to Top Stacks?
Yeah. And like, if you're looking for reasons to fade them, like I'm having trouble finding reasons other than they're really high owned. Yeah. The Blackhawks have been a bit better defensively, but this is a back-to-back on the road. Granted, it's not a long trip from wherever the Panthers play in Florida to Tampa. But like, I don't know. 35%, and they still have positive leverage. Obviously, the top stack tools like them as well. They're very efficient. They're very good. That line sample and a small sample has been excellent. It's not like they're struggling 5-on-5. Like they're probably at least a 15% discount on DraftKings, maybe more. This line in the middle of the season, if they were together, you could see them. If they were rolling in the middle of the season, you'd see them in the mid 22s probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you could see it at 23, even to 24K line here if they're really rolling.
Yeah, this line should be priced like old Boston 1 probably. So like, what do you do in GPPs? Like, it's not like this is a very tough spot. Like, yeah, like Chicago 1 played excellent last night and they just ran into Bob. But like, I don't know. There's legitimate data that shows that your defensive numbers fall off back to back on the road. It's not like we're making it up. It's not a witch hunt. It's a fact. So I'm in on Tampa 1. There's ways you can get different, I would imagine. You can add in Killorn. He doesn't play much though, and that's a concern. Like he's been playing like 13, 14 minutes and he doesn't shoot the puck. But like, if you want to add him in for a power play stack, I think that's a way to get different. I wouldn't suggest like getting sneaky and leaving off Stamkos and adding in Killorn. That just feels like you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. So Tampa 1 for me, you want to add in Killorn. I think you can add in Hedman. Like price really isn't too much of an issue. Like if you do go like full Tampa 1 with Hedman, you can't get in Vegas 1. So like you're kind of cut off a little bit if you add in Hedman. So I think that will put you on a more unique path than just locking in Stamkos, Port and Kucherov and then locking in another chalky line. So I think you either add in Killorn, you add in Hedman, or you add in both. But I would not suggest leaving one of those guys off the top line. On the Chicago side, like, yeah, it's an ownership play for me. For Chicago 1, they're coming in at 1.5%, 2%. They played so well last night. Look, you just look at their numbers on that stat trick from last night. Like if Bob didn't stand on their head, they were probably scoring 3 goals. So yeah, from ownership play, 1%. Like this is another line that has issues. This is a matchup problem. Like they're going into a really good team here, but I would rather play, I think from like a minute standpoint, I know minutes has been like the key word for like concern rightly, but I'd rather play DeBrincat, Strome, Kane than Nashville 1 because they're going to play more minutes. It is a more difficult matchup, but they're also fully correlated on the power play and Tampa's penalty kill, not super elite. So I'm in on a nice little contrarian Chicago 1 to get a little bit different here tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Chicago 1 because I did want to bring them up. Like I did play them last night. I didn't have a lot of them. I think it was like 2 or 3 out of my 20 lineups. I had Chicago 1. Like they had 13 shots on goal last night. Patrick Kane hit the shot bonus with 7 shots on his own. Like sometimes you just run into hot goalie. Like I was just checking Twitter for some lineup updates and I see Sergei Bobrovsky finished the 3rd star of the month for the month of March. So congrats to him. But yeah, his shutout last night, it was a very good game, but Chicago, at least that Chicago top line played well. The Chicago top line, their last 100 minutes together, 37 scoring chances generated for and 27 against. Like they're controlling 58% of the scoring chances in their last 100 minutes. They're playing pretty well. the issue is, like you said, back to back on the road is a tough situation. And that new Tampa second line with Cirelli, Palat, Killorn, that's the line that they're probably going to be matched up against. That line has actually been fairly good defensively. So it's a bad 5-on-5 matchup, but like you said, the power play might be the difference here. Like, it might shock some people, but the Chicago power play has actually been top 10 in the league by expected goals against over the last month. They're just behind Pittsburgh and St. Louis and Carolina in that regard. They've been very, very good. At the other end of the spectrum, you have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have come in 22nd by expected goals against on the penalty kill over the last month, sandwiched between Philadelphia and Columbus.
That's like this
penalty kill has been legitimately bad. What saved them is Andre Vasilevsky. The goaltending, they're getting 923 goaltending on the penalty kill over the last 5 weeks. Like, what do you do about that? You run into a hot goalie, Chicago knows all about that from last night. So, like, yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'm going back to some Chicago 1 here. Again, it's going to be a situation where I think I'm 20 maxing tonight, and I'll have like 2 out of 20 lineups will be Chicago 1 or something like that. Like, I'm not going to go 40% Chicago 1 or something like that here, but yeah, 1 or 2, absolutely. The Tampa side, honestly, I think if I'm playing Tampa tonight, it's our old buddy, Mr. Josh Stack. Over on DraftKings, you can stack up to 6 skaters, and Kevin Lankinen is in net. I think he's a worse goalie than Colin Delia, honestly. That's something that definitely works in Tampa's favor. And it obviously dilutes the ownership a lot and lets you create basically kind of any lineup that you want when you go with 6 Tampa skaters. So, the top line plus Killorn, maybe add a third liner like Hagel or Colton or something like that. Maybe they can get on the board and then throw in Hedman or somebody on the blue line. Like, I think that's how I'm going to attack Tampa tonight for a good portion of the stacks that I do use Tampa. It's just going to be a straight power play stack. Try to get the top guys in the lineup, or just full 6-man Josh stack over on DraftKings. That's how I'm treating the Bolts. Like I said, don't mind a little bit of Chicago 1. On the blue line, I think Hedman's always in play. Mikhail Sergachev, the minutes have actually, with Ryan McDonough out of the lineup, the minutes have actually gone to Sergachev more than anybody else. Like, Jan Ruda's actually playing some minutes, like decent minutes on some nights, so you could say him as well. But, Sergachev's been like 22, 23 minutes without McDonough. He seems reasonably priced at a third the ownership of Victor Hedman, so don't mind him. On the other side, Jake McCabe, I think, is the guy that I would go to for a punt from the Chicago blue line. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree on McCabe, and I'm looking at Josh stack options. Like, you go power play 1 plus Cirelli or plus Killorn, or excuse me, power play 1 plus Cirelli or Palat, and it's just like, Nick Paul. I think power play 1 plus Sergachev is going to put you on a very, very unique path. You don't have to worry about, finding a punt D. That way you can find a filler line that you like. It's like, Sergachev's going to get his massive minutes in that 4,900. If this game does like kind of get out of hand, like, he may see top power play minutes in the third period. You know what I mean? So of all the players you can put with power play 1, I think Sergachev might actually be the best option.
Yeah, I really do like that call. I do like Sergachev here tonight. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our top stacks, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be easily added on to any of these packages at checkout, but it is not included in our base package. Sounds like King Bacon Pie, big fan of Fantasy Cruncher. However, Fantasy Cruncher is a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal. So for those looking to enter multi-enter contests, make sure to add it to your package. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, let's talk about your boys here, Josh. New York Rangers, 3.1 at home against the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders have a 2.4 implied goal total. Couple notes here. One, the Islanders played last night, and Ilya Sorokin is still hurt. So we're either getting a back-to-back Semyon Varlamov, which, like, I think is crazy enough to do that. Completely playoffs again. But at the same time, like, there's no reason not to go to the backup goalie, and the backup goalie would be Corey Schneider here. He was called up from Bridgeport. Yes, that Corey Schneider, the guy from the New Jersey Devils, that's been out of the NHL basically for a couple of years now. So it looks like it could be a real good matchup for your Rangers. And we talked about it on yesterday's show with Jake. The Islanders' defensive numbers have really fallen off over the last month or two. Some of their lines are really allowing a lot of scoring chances, and not just for the Islanders, just in general across the league. They've been very poor defensively. So I think there's a lot to like on the Rangers side here, Josh. What do you think?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see the top line of the Rangers at like 6%, 6.5%, 7%, because they're always chalk in not the best spots. And tonight they're in probably one of their better 5-on-5 matchups this season, and they're not really owned at all. I guess it's because the Islanders don't take many penalties, and the Rangers have been living on the power play. However, since Vetrano moved up to that top line this week, they've been rolling. And that top line for the Islanders, Lee, Nelson, Bavillier, like they're very high event. Like, their offensive numbers have started to slip. Their defensive numbers are starting to slip even more. Like, they're giving up 16 high danger chances per 60 and a 3.55 expected goals against per 60. And that's not a small sample. That's over 100 minutes now. 30 scoring chances against. Like, this Rangers top line with Vetrano there, they're controlling 2/3 of the scoring chances. So I'm in on Rangers one. Like, it's rare to see a Rangers line 5-on-5 have those good numbers. And if you're going to get them going into a bad defensive Islanders line with possibly Corey Schneider 12 years past his prime, like, yeah, I'm in on Rangers one. That second line, I think you can go to as well. Not a huge fan of Dryden Hunt. That second line for the Islanders, a bit better defensively. So I think from a 5-on-5 standpoint, I'm going to go to that top line. And if you need a filler, like, I know Barclay Goodrow, Hedel, and Lafreniere don't have great numbers together. That's because, Goodrow sucks. But, like, Hedel and Lafreniere, they have fairly good numbers together. And that Bailey, JG Pajot, Palmieri line sucks. So, like, if you need a cheap filler, I think Hedel, Lafreniere is a nice way to get different on this slate. Like, yeah, like, they may only play 13, 14 minutes, but it's 5,200 for the two of them going into the worst defensive line in the Islanders, which is saying something because that top line is pretty bad. I would avoid power play stacking. I mean, you could, but the Islanders don't take enough penalties, and the Rangers are actually not great at drawing penalties either. So I think I would just stick to full stacking the top line, or, going the two guys on the third line. On the Islanders side, like, that top line has been generating a bunch, but, like, there's two things that worry me about the Islanders tonight. One, the Rangers have been better defensively, and they've been limiting shot chances. And two, those shot chances that have been limited are going into Igor. So, like, back to back on the road, I'm probably out on Islanders.
Yeah, I think part of the reason you're seeing low ownership on the Rangers, I think, is because it's kind of tough to fit them with that Tampa top line. Certainly you cannot do it on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you can, I think, but you need to go with two sub 3K defensemen. So, if you want to kind of double punt your defenseman, you can do it. But I think that's why you're seeing very reasonable ownership on that Rangers top line. Like, I want to start with the Rangers third line. Actually, I agree with you. Going into that Islanders third line, 2.7 expected goals against per 60 minutes, only controlling 46% of the expected goals when they're on the ice. They aren't very good. We talked about them every time the Islanders are on the slate. So I think they're fine. If you just want to one-off, I think even just one-offing Lafreniere, just to save some money on, some more expensive stacks is perfectly fine. But I do like that Rangers top line here. Like, I'll just flat out admit it. I was wrong about that line. I didn't think Frank Vetrano would fit well on the first line. I thought he'd do much better on the second line. But yeah, you're right. They've looked absolutely dynamite since he's been there. both by the eye test and by the numbers. So, the Islanders top line isn't awful. Like, they do carry 54% of the expected goals when they're on the ice, but they are at 2.7 expected goals against per 60 minutes, which is like 15% worse than the league average, which is, considering this is the Islanders, who are typically great defensively, that's not great. So yeah, I do like Rangers 1 here. If you want to get a little bit and maybe add in like an Andrew Kopp for some additional power play exposure, or something like that, I think it's fine. But I think it's just Rangers 1 that I would focus on the most. On the other side, there's just not a lot that I really want to play from the Islanders. Like, again, we're running into the problem, two problems now. Like you said, the first problem has always been Igor. The second problem is like the Rangers have turned a corner defensively, as you mentioned. So I'm not going to say no to playing any of the Islanders lines, because anything can happen in a given night of NHL. But like, we have their top 3 lines under 2.5% combined top 2 stack percentage. Like, we're not expecting much from them here tonight. So I think if anything, I would go to like Barzal, Wahlstrom, Parise. They've actually been playing well. Panarin and Hunt aren't like great defensive players. Kopp isn't either, but like, they're all pretty good offensive, so that, they can carry the play. But I think if the Islanders do anything here tonight, it's a high-paced second line matchup. So Barzal, Wahlstrom, 2-man, Barzal, Parise, something like that. But it's Rangers 1 or bust, really, for me. On the blue line, like, as much as I want to play Noah Dobson, 6,100 for 20 minutes is just such a hard pass. They're just not giving any of their defensemen enough minutes for me to really be interested in here. On the Rangers side, Adam Fox always in play for correlation, but Keandre Miller, he's looked pretty good over the last month. He had that pretty nice OT goal there a couple weeks ago too. I don't mind him for a min price guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, you watch Keandre Miller and you think he'd be excellent for DFS. That's not always the case. Like, his peripherals come and go, but at min price, again, you take the chance if you need to go guy at min price. He has very high offensive upside.
Yep, I agree with that. Let's move along to my favorite game on the whole slate. Ottawa, 3.0 implied goal total going into Detroit. The Red Wings have a 3.1 implied goal total. Just a small lineup note here. It looks like Tyler Ennis is coming in on the third line for Chris Tierney. So Ennis will be playing with Matthew Joseph and Colin White. Detroit, with Oscar Sundqvist in the lineup, has been sending out that line, the Ernie Suter Sundqvist line, against the opposing top lines. And I was just flooding our Discord with defensive charts for Ernie and Sundqvist and Suter. Like, they are just not, they just don't look like they'll be a good line. If you look at just the numbers with Suter and Ernie skating together, 42% of the scoring chances when they're on the ice. Like, I don't think they'll be able to control Ottawa 1 here tonight. I think both top lines actually are very much in play here. What do you like?
Yeah, I like both top lines here. And it's just a matter of which one you like more. So the Senators are starting a 21-year-old AHL goalie, Mads Sogard, and I think that will push ownership to the Red Wings. And if it's just because no one recognizes the name Mads Sogard, if you start digging into him a little bit, he looks like a legitimate prospect, possibly the Senators goalie of the future. That's why maybe they didn't give Anton Forsberg a 38-year contract. It was just a 3-year contract because they expect this guy to be ready sooner than later. Now, maybe, obviously, they gave him the contract because they don't think Mads is going to be completely ready right now, but they want to see what they have with him. You look at the comparables, and Igor's on the list. He's not at the top of the list of the comparables, but anytime you kind of see a list with Igor there, you kind of, raise the eyebrow a little bit. But I kind of went off on a tangent there. But what I meant was that's probably going to push some ownership to Detroit 1. I think you're going to get Ottawa 1 a little bit lower owned than Detroit 1 tonight. And I think that's where I want to go. Just because, 1, it's a good power play matchup. 2, excellent 5-on-5 matchup. Drake Batherson is getting his legs under him. He can only get better from here. So in on Ottawa 1, you want to go to Detroit 1. I think that's fine as well. They're going to get bottom 6 matchups of the Senators. Now, granted, like Matthias Joseph, Colin White, Tyler Ennis might actually be decent defensively for Sen standards. Like, Matthias Joseph is going to be a good two-way winger in this league, hopefully, like he should be. I don't know. Like, I mean, I think Detroit 1 is perfectly fine as well. I think I just give a slight lean to Ottawa 1 here as well. I think Jacob Vrana is a good one off as well. I really don't want a full stack Vrana, Veleno, Gagne. Like the Stutzle aforementioned Brown line has been pretty good for per cent standard. So like stacking that second line just feels bad. But like one-offing Vrana or adding Vrana to Detroit 1, I think is a nice way to get additional power play.
Yeah, I will say, like, I'm not going to go too long here. I really do like Ottawa 1 here tonight for two reasons. One, they're going to get some of that Detroit 3 matchup, and like we said, that doesn't look like it's going to be a good line whatsoever. And two, the Detroit penalty kill has been really, really bad. Bottom 3 penalty kill by expected goals against in the month of March. And at 5-on-5, the team as a whole is bottom 10 by expected goals against. It's just like Ottawa's a much better defensive team than Detroit is, and that's kind of surprising to say. And Detroit, like, I don't know why they put Danny DeKeyser back in the lineup. Like at one point, he was a good defensive defenseman, but injuries have just, kind of ruined his career. Like he just makes that already bad defensive team worse defensively. Ottawa 1, really do like them here tonight. I think Ottawa 2's kind of fine as a filler. I think they're just coming a little bit overowned. So it's probably Ottawa 1 most for me out of this game. On the blue line, the Sens are really starting to spread out the ice time. Like Brandstrom, when he first started getting the power play minutes, was at like 24, 25. He's closer down to like 20, 21 minutes of late. I think if you're looking for a guy that could run up some blocks, like I think Nick Holden is actually fine here. I laughed at Michael Del Zotto's price, 4,100. I think that's a pass for me. On the Detroit side, if you need a punt, always like Jake Wallman, Cedar if you're going Detroit 1. What do you think? Thank you very much. We are a Jake Wallman podcast here.
You look at his numbers. You give Wallman the minutes, right? You give Wallman 20 minutes, and the Blues aren't trading for Nicoletti. He's going to be good. So, yeah, Wallman, if you want 16 minutes of Jake Wallman, Brandstrom's fine. Holden, I think, is the guy as well.
All right. Let's move this along then. We talked about Yahoo Fantasy a little bit earlier in the show, and we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. All right. Oh my God.
Yeah, Mike Smith just got confirmed.
St. Louis, 3.1 implied goal total going into Edmonton. Edmonton, 3.5 implied goal total. As Josh said, Mike Smith confirmed for the Oilers. Jordan Binnington similarly confirmed for the Blues. I guess you'd call them their respective teams' backup goalies at this point. Neither's really having a good season. Binnington's really been bad, over the last month or so. That's why Husso's pretty much grabbed the starting role job. St. Louis is playing in Calgary tomorrow. That's why they're starting Binnington tonight. But what do we do here, Josh? Because they were expecting over 6.5 goals as it was already, and now we're getting the two backups. What do you think?
It's funny because I saw in the lineup builder click confirm to Mike Smith and Jordan Binnington, and you immediately saw a 15% jump in McDavid's ownership. It went from like 9 to 11 as soon as Binnington got confirmed. But like, I don't know, like with Mike Smith confirmed, it's not the best 5-on-5 matchup for St. Louis 1. But like they're cheap and they're coming in at 6.5, 7%. You can fit them with Tampa. And Ron O'Reilly Perron have been really, really good recently. So I kind of like the Blues top line here tonight. Like, here's the thing, like McDavid, that line plays a ton of minutes. Draisaitl, that line plays a ton of minutes. McDavid's not going to be glued to O'Reilly. He's not going to be glued to Thomas. They're just going to get a bunch of top 6 for his top 6. So like that Draisaitl line has also been pretty good defensively, but like it's Mike Smith. They're not very good on the penalty kill. I think going to either of the top 6 Blues lines here makes some sense. Now we're going to talk about that hot word, time on ice, and they do play again tomorrow, and they've already had minutes concerns, and the top 9 always plays like almost the same. But like if you can get me 17 minutes of O'Reilly Perron instead of like 16 minutes of 8K Forsberg, again, I'd rather play St. Louis 1 than Nashville 1. It just is what it is. So like I like St. Louis 1, probably better than St. Louis 2, just because they're cheaper. And O'Reilly Perron have been rolling. So yeah, St. Louis 1 for me. You want to go to St. Louis 2? I'm not going to tell you no, but again, like you just have those 16 to 18 minutes concerns. On the Edmonton side, like you were talking before the show how you wish Puljujarvi was down on that third line, because the third line of the Blues of Barbashev, Shen, Torpachenko are just awful. But like that third line of Edmonton's not great either. And like maybe I want to play Nugent Hopkins, but his line mates are just so bad. So like I kind of like the McDavid, Puljujarvi, Kane line. I think, it's not the best matchup, but McDavid's best numbers are with Puljujarvi. Just that's also a fact. Puljujarvi's best numbers are with David. That's also a fact. Evander Kane's not going to hurt there. They're going to see a good bit of time against O'Reilly Perron, but like it's McDavid and he's 11% projected right now. Anytime McDavid's projected under 20%, I break out in hives, because if I fade him, it seems like one of those elite spots for him to go off at low ownership. And the same with the second line, Draisaitl coming in 8%, Hyman 5.7%. You know what I mean? Like going like McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl would be the one like 3-man stack I may do if I have the cojones to fade Tampa in one lineup, get some low owned Edmonton.
Yeah, I really do like the Edmonton top line here tonight. Like you said, it sucks that some of their matchups are going to be going into that O'Reilly line, because the O'Reilly line, we said it a lot, over the last month or so. They've really turned the game around. They're only allowing 22 scoring chances against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 over the last 75 minutes. I think the league average somewhere is around 27 or 28. So obviously they're really good defensively, but again, they're going to get enough of the second line matchups where it's not a huge concern. That St. Louis second line, they've been good, but they do have some off games. And, you talk about minutes concerns. Alexei Toropchenko played more minutes than Vladimir Tarasenko in St. Louis's last game. And Toropchenko is a call-up. Like that's the minutes concerns are real problems here with St. Louis outside of the top line. Like O'Reilly's probably going to play 18 or 19 minutes or whatever. So I'm with you. I think I do like the St. Louis top line on the Blues side. I'm going to leave those second and third lines to other people. Like the St. Louis second line is good offensively. It's just, is Tarasenko going to play 15 minutes tonight or 18 minutes? It seems like there's been a lot of 15-minute games lately. He can get there in 15 minutes, especially against Mike Smith. But where both of these teams and a lot of these lines are coming in at or near their leverage spots. And you talked about Edmonton 1's low ownership. Edmonton 1, St. Louis 1, like them both here in this game, especially with the goalies that we just got confirmed. So, like, I think Edmonton 1 is the pivot if you don't want to play the super chalky Tampa 1. They're roughly the same price. Obviously, it's a tougher matchup. That's why they're at 1/6 the ownership of Tampa 1 here tonight. So Edmonton 1, St. Louis 1. On the blue lines, the Oilers are still kind of spreading out their ice time, which is really annoying. I wouldn't even sort correlate with Tyson Barrie. That guy's over 5K now. Like that's really pushing it. I don't know. Do we go back to Cody Ceci? What do we do here?
I don't mind Ceci for 3K. Don't mind Brett Kulak for min price, but like, I don't think I'd pay up for the expensive Edmonton defenders. And on the blue side, not much there that I like at all.
Yeah, one thing I will say, Darnell Nurse is coming in with almost no ownership. He's a guy that can, kind of really break a slate by himself if he has one of his, patented fantasy games. If you're 20 maxing MMEing, I think it's worth, throwing in a few Nurse lineups. But yeah, single entry, I would probably avoid. All right, Vegas 3.4 implied goal total. They're going into Seattle. Seattle is a 2.6 implied goal total. If this all sounds very familiar, it's because they played each other a couple nights ago in Seattle. This is just a replay of that game. Doesn't look like we're getting any significant line changes. Jared McCann has jumped to the top line for Seattle with Alex Wenberg and Jordan Eberle. They're going to get probably second and third line matchups here as the Gord line from Seattle will face off against Jack Eichel. Vegas is coming in with reasonable ownership here, like reasonably high ownership. So what do we do here with a line that, Seattle's actually not been terrible defensively. It's just been, their goaltending has really, really let them down. So what do we do here?
Yeah. On the contraire, with moving up McCann to that top line and having a second line of Gord, Kuhlman, Rask, that line played against Vegas 2 nights ago, and they absolutely got caved. And I was looking for reasons to fade Vegas 1 tonight. Again, it's one of those things where I'm not finding many reasons. Now, you say Rask, Gord, Kuhlman going to get that top line of Eichel. They're bad defensively. You're like, oh, maybe the Seattle coach will smarten up and put McCann, Wenberg, Eberle against Eichel. They're bad defensively. So I don't know. Vegas is battling for a playoff spot, so Jack Eichel is going to get his big minutes tonight, and he's one of the rare guys that for sure he's going to get his minutes. He might be the only person on the slate who is going to play over 20 minutes tonight, who has ownership right now. Tampa won, they'll probably sniff 20. For sure Eichel's playing over 20 tonight. So 7,200, I definitely think he's in play. You want to full stack that line. The guys with him are cheap. I think full stacking that line is the play because you can't fit them with Tampa 1 and Hedman. You can fit them without Hedman, but I feel like leaving off Hedman in a Tampa stack tonight is a bit risky. So I don't know. I think full stacking Vegas 1 here will put you on a unique path, even if you do, take a piece or two from Tampa. You want to go down that second line. They're getting pretty high ownership too. I think I'd rather just go up to that top line or go to the top line and add in a Marchessault for more power play. On the Seattle side, the McCann Eberle, I think maybe would be the 2-man I'd go. I know they don't have great numbers together, 5-on-5, but Vegas's penalty kill hasn't been great, and you do at least get some 5-on-5 correlation there. So if you had to go to a Seattle line tonight, it would be that top line for power play with McCann and Eberle.
Yeah, I do want to start with the power play matchups a little bit here because neither penalty kill has really been great over the last month or so, but the Seattle power play is just an abomination, whereas the Vegas power play is actually passable. So I like your idea of, if you want to get away from some really high Vegas ownership, is top line plus Marchessault, turn into some sort of power play stack. Marchessault has just been absolutely shooting the lights out. He's just a bit of a shooting percentage problem. Jack Eichel, same thing. He's been shooting a lot as well. It's just a little bit of a shooting percentage problem. If those percentages ever regress, they're going to really start filling the net. And, we always say you want to get in on the ground floor before those things start regressing. We just, does it happen in the next 4 weeks? I guess we're going to find out. But I do like the idea of Vegas 1 plus a Marchessault, or, just flat Vegas 1. Don't mind the ownership here tonight. I think there are enough spots where you can look and get different, especially if they're going to keep sending out that Victor Rask against that top line. I don't know. I can see the McCann line kind of putting up a fight if they're on their game. But if they send out Victor Rask against them, it could be a very long night. So I do like Vegas 1 more than Vegas 2 here tonight. I like Michael Amadio as a player. I think he probably belongs in the NHL. I'm not slamming in 12% Michael Amadio here tonight. It's I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
So Vegas 1, I think Seattle 1 is kind of fine here. McCann, Eberle, and Wenberg. The problem is we keep talking about it. Nobody gets any minutes on this team. You know what I mean? I think Gord got up to 20 in their last game, but he's not even on that line. So what do you do? Out on Seattle, in on Vegas 1. On the blue line, Seattle's playing pretty much 4 defensemen. I do like Adam Larson on DraftKings for some blocks here tonight. On the Vegas side, Braden McNabb came in and played nearly 20 minutes in their first game back, but he's kind of expensive. I think it would just be looking at their power play guys like Theodore and Pietrangelo.
Yeah, Theodore is having a weird season too, but like I think you have to include him in power play stacks or even Vegas 1 stacks. Alec Martinez in minutes hasn't really come up yet. Ben Hutton's been playing like 17, 18 at min price. I think he's fine. And on the Seattle side, I agree. Adam Larson is probably the only guy. Definitely the only guy.
Yeah. One little problem is I think Vegas went 11-7 in their last game, and Pietrangelo was the only defenseman to crack 20 minutes, and he played like 20-30 or something like that. So could be some minutes concerns if they go back to that again here tonight. Here at Awesemo, we have the Awesemo Hall of Fame, where we like to celebrate subscriber success. And if you'd like to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, this is how you do it. You download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You place in the top 3 of any contest with at least 5,000 contestants. You tweet those wins into the Awesemo Hoff account on Twitter. And if you do all that, you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Dave DeRemer, man, this guy's pretty much showing up just about every day in the Awesemo Hoff. Couple takedowns. He's usually here for parlays. He said he had a couple takedowns last night, couple first places in NBA, taking 5 figures in profit. Congrats to Dave. Third place, Mike Diamond, $15K over on FanDuel, playing NBA as well. Congrats to him. Tyler Matisse, $80K, second place in PGA back over the weekend. K Silva, saw him tweeting into the account, playing CSGO. I play that sometimes as well. I think it's pretty enjoyable. Congrats to him on his first place $3,000 finish. And Rocker Roller, $20K, first place solo in NASCAR last weekend. Congrats as well. Get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Send in your screenshots to the Awesemo Hoff account. Coming up after us, Locks Before Lock, our NBA prop betting show, comes up at 4:15 Eastern with Greg and Savoca. And then our NBA double dose of the deeper dive and live before lock. We got one more game to get through before we get out of here. If you guys could, please throw a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Those really help us out. You don't have to spend your money here, but just clicking those buttons really do help us. And thanks again to Yahoo Fantasy for being our sponsor. First-time DFS players, check out the giveaway through Yahoo below. All right, Josh. Anaheim, 2.9 implied goal total going into Arizona. The Coyotes have a 3.1 implied goal total. You'll see the totals have probably moved to the Anaheim side because of the injury to Clayton Keller here. Keller was hurt in their last game. He's out for the season, might be out for the start of next season. We don't have Arizona lines. I don't imagine we'll get them. We have guesses up in our lineup builder of what we think it's going to be, with Richie, Galchenyuk, Schmaltz on the top line, leaving that second line as is. I think Barrett Hayton might be on the top line in place of Galchenyuk, because they really seem to hate Galchenyuk of late. Like, that guy's just like been not playing down on the fourth line and third line. So I think it might be Barrett Hayton on the top line, but either way, those guys are min price. So as long as you leave them in your utility, you can swap one or the other once those lineups come out. On the Anaheim side, Sonny Milano jumped to the line with Trevor Zegras, and we talk about how important that is for Zegras, because those two have really good chemistry and have all season. But the Anaheim ownership is absolutely out of control. What do you think?
Back to back on the road, 26% Ducks.
Let's go.
Like, no. The only place I'm going is, I just won't go there. But like, Anaheim won. At that ownership, I'm out. Like, I'm sorry. You want to play them with Tampa 1 because they fit nicely with Hedman. Go ahead. If they beat me, I'll tip my cap tomorrow and say congratulations to all the Ducks riders. I don't know. Like, if anything, I'd maybe one off Adam Henrique just because he's on the top power play and he's coming in with way less ownership than Zegras. And Arizona penalty kill is awful. Clayton Keller was the Coyotes' best player by far. Maybe, I don't know. Like, 30% Zegras, like 25% Troy Terry. Like if they were home and they were fresh and there was ways to get different, but like people are just like blindly going to load in Tampa 1, Ducks 1. You know what I mean? So like at that ownership, I just can't do it. You want to go to the Arizona side? Where are we going? You know what I mean? Like you want to play Nick Ritchie, Nick Schmaltz 2-man for some power play. Like I know the Ducks penalty kill is bad, but you take Keller out of this lineup and it is just a who's who of who. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Like if this game didn't exist, it would be better. But like there's so much ownership on this game that I hope it stays low scoring. So the guys that I do play get some lower ownership.
Yeah, I think if you want to one-off like a Nick Schmaltz, I think that's fine because obviously if this offense does anything, it's probably going to go through him. 2-man Schmaltz and Ritchie, I think is okay, given it's a back-to-back for Anaheim. But that's like I'm with you. I'm fading that Anaheim ownership. I actually like Carl Vejmelka. He's my favorite player in the entire game, so I'm going to probably have a fair bit of Vejmelka. Let's get to our hat trick picks and our goalies here, Josh. My hat trick pick, love the Drake Batherson from Ottawa. My goalies are Vejmelka, as I just mentioned. I'm going to be playing some Sogard from Ottawa as well. Obviously, if you want to pay up both Saros and Igor, just fine. What do you think?
Yeah, the goalies I wrote down. I like both goalies in this late game, Stellaris and Vejmelka. I wrote down Mads. I think spending up is Igor. If you Josh stack, then you play that goalie. Otherwise, it's not a Josh stack. And Robin Leonard, if he starts, I think is.
They said Thompson's going to start.
Thompson, it is. And then my hat trick pick is going to be Jack Eichel.
Oh, I like it. Jack Eichel, Drake Batherson. Your hat trick picks. All right, we are out of here. We will be back tomorrow with another NHL strategy show. I believe it's at 11 a.m. Eastern, different from our last couple weeks. So until then, for producer Mike, for a single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris, I'm Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody.